So, ladies and gentlemen, this situation with Hulk Hogan and Joey Swoll is not going away. It continues to become exasperated by the people that are commenting on it from the black community. And I'll be honest, I've heard people that have reached out to me and said, look, I agree with you on a lot of stuff, but he did say colored, and that's sort of an antiquated term, and black people may be offended. My response is good. Be offended. If you're black and you're offended by the word colored, first of all, why are you not outraged at the NAACP? What does the NAACP stand for? If it's that offensive, if it's that outrageous, why don't they change their name to the NAAPOC? We're talking about semantics here. And at the end of the day, it's about control. It's about trying to control your language. And my answer when anyone tries to control my language is no. It's no. No. I will call you whatever I want within the bounds of civil society. So I'm not going to go around using the N-word. But if I say colored, and you know that it's not being used in bad faith, you know that it's not a term that's being used as a slur, and you're trying to make it into that because of your own inferiority complex and your own issue, my response is going to be, fuck you. I know that may be a little crass, but at the end of the day, you're trying to dictate what I can say and come up with these arbitrary language barriers. By the way, are we just also going to ignore the fact that the black community has been going wild on Sydney Sweeney for no reason? She was in a commercial. She's white, blonde hair, blue eyes, and suddenly it's eugenics. They can call her a Nazi, they can call her a racist, they can call her anything under the book. The black community can dish it, but they can't take it. Some of the most fragile people on the planet while pretending, oh, we're so tough, we're so hard. No, you're not. You're weak. You hear colored, and it sends you into this Winter Soldier moment from a guy like Joey Swoll. And by the way, here's the thing that sends me over the moon. I understand it's not great to hear somebody like Hulk Hogan use the N-word and to speak disparagingly about black people in a private phone call in one of his darkest moments that he later apologized for. And by the way, he was baptized. So, in the eyes of the Lord, he found Jesus Christ and he has been forgiven. His sins have been absolved on that. And frankly, it's none of our business. It really isn't any of our business what people talk about in their private moments. I guarantee everyone bitching at Hulk Hogan, if their private conversations with family were ever leaked, it would be dire. Because when you're with family and you're in your most heated moment, you sometimes say things that you don't mean. You sometimes do things that you don't mean. But when I'm watching the black community come out and destroy or attempt to destroy the legacy of Hulk Hogan, they failed, by the way. All the while, from 2020 on, I had to hear ad nauseum about St. George Floyd. How great George Floyd was. Because he died, he was turned into a saint immediately. All of his past wrongs were forgiven. And that really was the narrative. They were making murals of George Floyd. They were making statues of George Floyd. George Floyd, you want to compare? Like, you're outraged at Hulk Hogan, but George Floyd put a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach as he was robbing her. Now, I think that we need to be consistent across the board. If you want to try to lionize an animal, let me repeat that because some black people may be triggered by the fact that I use the word animal in relation to a person that's black. Anyone who doesn't have the humanity within them to realize how absolutely fucked up it is to put a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach, or some people are saying, well, she wasn't pregnant, she had a kid there, as if it makes it better. Whatever the circumstances were, this guy went to prison because he did that, and really, truthfully, he should have been in prison the rest of his life for what he did. But you're going to try to lionize that guy while saying that Hulk Hogan well, he should have to continue even after death to do a struggle session. And that people who support Hulk Hogan and love Hulk Hogan, they should feel bad because the black community's feelings are hurt. I think that is ridiculous. I personally think that is ridiculous. And I think that we need to be more honest. I do. Because I think a lot of the issues that we see are from people that are crippled to talk about this subject honestly and openly. And by the way, that's not a call to just be openly racist. That's not what that is. There is a world of difference between being honest and being somebody like Nick Fuentes that just says, oh, we should be able to use the N-word and we should be able to, say things in any time, in any manner that we choose. No, there are different standards when it comes to having a civil society. But at the end of the day, you're not going to tell me what to say and what not to say and how to say it, especially when I've seen the type of things that make you cheer and the type of things that make you boo.
Okay, so I did see that clip of him saying colored, and I was like, whoa, whoa. A part of me couldn't believe it. I was like, a guy this young said colored? What in the hell?
So what I want to say is that the reason why I want to react to this video is because I do appreciate Tyrone's perspective here. He's somebody that has worn t-shirts that say like very black, black and proud, that sort of black pride thing. That if the inverse were worn, if somebody wore like white pride, I'm proud of my heritage, they'd be destroyed. You don't even have to say that you're proud of your heritage. If you're just white with blonde hair and blue eyes, they'll call you a Nazi. But I do think that his perspective is interesting because of that fact, because he is somebody that I would classify as I don't know if you want to call it like a black identitarian, but somebody that is very proud of his black racial heritage. And I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's perfectly legitimate to have that. And it makes his perspective very interesting because when he talks about this stuff, you can see he does get a lot more invested. Like when I heard Joey Swoll say colored athletes, it meant nothing to me. It's just a word. But Tyrone, he's like, what? You say colored? Even though, like, if you listen to a lot of these, these groups, if you look at the way that their names are organized, it's, the NAACP, the National Advocacy and Advancement for Colored People. I think that's what it's called. So there's nothing illegal or hateful about saying colored athletes or anything like that. I think that's just a personal petty grievance. And honestly, I don't think it was really about that at all. I think people were miffed in the black community because he was honoring Hulk Hogan, and this was just a way to try to tear him down. Oh, you must be a racist because you said colored. Meanwhile, you've got these fat black women, these Nubian queens, going on social media and, tearing down white women, tearing down Sydney Sweeney. And one of my absolute favorite pictures is somebody came up with an advert from Levi with Beyonce, and they're like, Beyonce's jeans are better. I don't know if you've seen that. That was really funny. And the reason why it was so funny and the reason why I got such a chuckle out of it is because people in the comments were pointing out, like, Beyonce dyes her hair blonde. She, her genes are better, yet she has to pretend that she has the genetics of Sydney Sweeney. I did think that was pretty funny, that people were like, doesn't she like continue to get whiter by the day? I want to see if I can find that picture because that was pretty good. I don't know if I can find it. I usually save these things, but who knows? Anyway, yeah, I think all of this stuff is interesting, and I think that having a conversation about this is important because there is a double standard. There is a lot of bullshit. And I think that the only way that we as a society are going to be able to come together is if we stop with these ridiculous games. And it is a game where it's my team versus your team. The way that I see it, if you want to know my feeling on it, I'm America first. So I look at the situation and I go, okay, this one group of Americans is causing more problem than any other race, any other group combined. If you're Nick Fuentes, you're like, well, deport them all. My thing is, no. There needs to be, from within, a cultural shift, and there needs to be, from within, a push to a more traditional standard. What I would want for the black community is what they had in the past with the 1920s and 1930s and 1940s, where there was a man in the house, where a woman would, be there to serve her man, have kids. Man goes to work, produces for his community, goes to church, all that stuff. That's what I want. That is America. And that's what I want for everyone. I want everyone to be able to flourish under America because I think that it is something special. But unfortunately, there are too many people that are interested in materialism, that are interested in tribalism, that are interested in, I'm this color and you're this color, so I have to hate you. And I just don't think that that is a particularly effective or reasonable way to conduct things. And I think things like this just go to show that there are going to be more racial tensions. There are going to be more tensions in general until this sort of stuff gets resolved. And I really hope that it does, and I hope that it gets done in a way that isn't like what I'm thinking is going to happen, because what I think is going to happen is something that benefits absolutely nobody. Nobody wins when there's a race war, or the younger generation, by the way, is becoming more right-wing, far more right-wing. Like, not just like, oh, I'm a Republican and I'm a Democrat. No, Trump's approval is going down amongst the youth, and the media says, oh, well, it's because, they're too liberal. No. He's not right-wing enough. He's not far right enough. The younger generation, more than ever, are saying things like, yeah, Hitler wasn't so bad. Like, it's crazy. So I can see in the near future that these kids that have grown up hearing that they're bad for being white, that they can't be attracted to Sydney Sweeney because that's fascism. I can see these younger generations that have seen video after video of black people knocking out elderly white couples like we saw the other day, and then other black people just standing around filming and laughing about it. I'm telling you, after probably 10 years of this, plus COVID didn't help, the Black Lives Matter protest, I'm telling you, things are going to get bad. And I am the last bastion of what could be a reasonable civil society, because what comes after me is far, far, far worse, and nobody wants it. Nobody really wants it. I want America to be a Christian nation where all different people have a unified culture where we can agree. Obviously, diversity is not our strength, and multiculturalism has not worked. We need a unifying American culture, one people under God, and that needs to be the way it is going forward, where we all have a similar ideal about what this country can be. Because otherwise, I don't know how we avoid going to war, and it's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be absolutely terrible.
So, black people, if you don't know this, black people were once called colored. Then it was changed to black later on. And I remember my mom even told me that her grandmother did not want to be called black. She said her grandmother said, "No, I'm not black, I'm colored." So it's one of those politically correct type of things that has, I guess, ebbed and flowed over the years. But nowadays, clearly, the majority of black people prefer to be called either black or African American or person of color. Okay. Personally, even as a child growing up, I've always had an issue with being called black because we're literally not black, we're brown. So
Yes. And you're also not African Americans. Like, that's the other thing. Yeah, you're not. Yeah, you're not black. Yeah, and you're not African Americans. So saying colored is actually like if you're like, oh, this colored athlete, that encompasses a lot of stuff, and I don't know how the word colored came to be offensive when people of color is not, right? Is that not batshit? African American? No, I will never say African American because it makes no sense. What part of Africa? Are you sub-Saharan African? Are you from South Africa? Like, the idea that you would just use the word African American, it's a completely ridiculous label that I think is actually more troubling than saying colored.
I've never understood that. Some people say it's more of a mind game type of thing. White is good, black is bad type of thing, and that's why we're labeled black. I don't know if it's that. I haven't done enough research on that, but that's what I've heard. So, yeah, I found that kind of weird that he used colored. I was like, whoa, like that's maybe he doesn't know enough black people. Maybe the experience in his life, he doesn't know enough black people and didn't know that is offensive now to say. So,
You know what's so crazy to me? And I'm just going to be perfectly honest, by the way. I don't care whose feelings I hurt. It is so pathetic listening to Tyrone talk like this. Do we really sit around and ponder about, oh, how did this black person address white people? Was it with the proper respect and terminology? Because when this guy called a white person a cracker, it's like there is such a ridiculous focus on how black people feel, and I got to be honest. As a person, I care how you feel. But if you ever come to me and say, "Well, as a black person, I was deep," I'm gonna say, "Okay, stop right there. I don't care. You are going to put your race before anything." I'm gonna be like, "Okay." As a Japanese person, no. As a human being, how do you feel? Oh, I'm deeply offended by this as a human being. Why? What? You don't have an answer, and then that's where I step in and go, "Okay, well, I think that's silly. I think that is childish. I think that's immature. And I think we need to grow up. And we need to be able to have honest conversations without people getting in their feelings and getting offended and getting triggered because you use a word in a way that, oh, we don't deem as appropriate. But we don't have the opposite conversation because white people don't care. And I'm saying white, but, Eurocentric people who were Caucasian, people who are from the Caucasus Mountains, emphasis on cock. We don't have these conversations. We don't have a conversation about, oh, it's so deeply offensive when you say this and this. The only time that we talk about it being offensive is when people associate being white with fascist or Nazi because of the color of their skin, which is something that I think is perfectly normal. I think it's perfectly normal to say, yeah, it doesn't make sense why Sydney Sweeney is being viciously harassed because she made an ad about jeans. Now, I have no problem with black people going out there and saying black pride, but I also don't have a problem with people going out there and saying I'm proud of my heritage too. And they are white. I think that should be the standard, that you are proud of your country first, by the way. I think you should be proud of your country first. I think you should be an American first, and then whatever else second. I think this putting our tribal groups first, I think that is a completely destructive and broken way of viewing things. That's just my personal opinion.
Oh, whatever, you know. Um, so he got backlash for putting up the video of Hulk Hogan. Then he got backlash from the other side for apologizing to the quote unquote mob, for bending the knee to the mob. Now, personally, I mean, I don't know. I may have been doing videos longer than him. I mean, I may have. I don't. You know, I discovered him at a certain point, but that doesn't mean that I have been doing videos longer. But you know, I've dealt with enough of people lying on me or twisting my words or backlash just because I don't like a particular movie. Like, that's the insanity that I deal with from nerddom and from geekdom. You know what I mean? You know, nerds and geeks can be just as much or worse bullies as the typical cool kid, alpha kid, you know, bully, you know, except usually nerds are more, they're beta males. They're cowards. They'll come at you with a Mickey Mouse, you know, profile picture and try to talk trash about you, but the majority would never say anything to your face. Alphas usually are the type to approach you anywhere. They don't care. But even an alpha bully, and I think most bullies, whether they're nerds or not, know that it's absolute insanity, mental illness to approach people in public over differences of opinions on movies and television.
I don't know what this has to do with the topic, but I'm going to see if I can't jump ahead.
My experience is growing up as a little black kid being a Hulk Hogan fan, to becoming a black man as a Hulk Hogan fan, and the experiences that I had during his run, and what that eventual expose did to how I feel about that man this day. So it's a hard spot to be in, I think, for a lot of people, because they want to praise what he did as a wrestler, but they also want to forgive him for what he did. So, and then you have the people that are religious. Now, not everybody's religious, and not everybody's going to see it your way. And I think that that's an issue that the religious people have. That
it's not an issue that I have. It's an issue that other people have. That's their failing. You don't accept Jesus Christ. That's your cross to bear. But yeah, no, it's not an issue with me.
That a lot of them, and a lot of people are like this, they just can't see anything other than their way. So
that's a really stupid and closed-minded thing to say. Now, I understand that he has, in his past, he had an extremely religious mother, and, you know, understand what he's speaking of in his own way. But no, first of all, I don't give a shit about the N-word. I've been in enough Call of Duty lobbies. I've been in enough Grand Theft Auto lobbies and seen people use the N-word like it's actual bullets in the game, like using it every couple seconds. So I know that they don't really give a shit that much. I understand that it's a power play. It's a way to control language. It's a way to get people to do what you want and to make them act or feel a certain type of way. I understand that. It's not legitimate. There is no legitimacy to it. They call each other the N-word. And so the whole thing is an excuse to do X, Y, or Z and to vent their own inferiority complex and their own personal issues. That's been my experience in my life. So, talks about the religious have a problem with people who think differently. No, I just know that you're wrong. And that can, if you don't like the taste of that, I'm sorry, but the reality is that faith, Jesus can absolve people of their sins. That is a basic thing that most people understand. Hulk Hogan was baptized and he found Christ. He apologized and repented for what he did. So it is insane to go after somebody in that way like they didn't do that. Whatever you think about the act itself, whether you think that it was fake or a gesture, and by the way, I'll bring up George Floyd again. George Floyd was a career criminal, a piece of shit, and the black community rallied around him. And this guy, the whole story around George Floyd was such a revealing insight into the way that this sort of bullshit works, into the way that race politics works, where George Floyd was saying, I couldn't breathe, I can't breathe, before he even got into the car because he had 5.5 times the lethal amount of fentanyl in his system. Anyone who tries to tell you that he was killed and didn't kill himself, that person is living in a delusional state. That was one of the biggest kangaroo trials I've ever seen in my life. It was outrageous. Where you find out that there was so much pressure externally to get the verdict, quote unquote, right, that there were people rioting and protesting outside the courtroom, that jurors had to come in under guard. Yeah, I think that whole thing was totally bullshit. And I think that that is a keen insight into the thinking behind this issue, where St. George Floyd, no matter what he did in life, no matter what he did, you can't bring it up. You can't bring up that he held a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach. But Hulk Hogan, oh, he used the N-word? He said he didn't want his daughter dating a black guy? Oh my God. Never let him live that down. Crucify him forever. And if anyone supports him, their career should end too. Meanwhile, not a word, not a fucking word about the black people, especially the fat black women that are chimping out, absolutely chimping out in the comments about, oh my God, it's eugenics. It's eugenics. It's eugenics to say that Sydney Sweeney has good genes. The fact is that what we're dealing with here, and this may be too honest and too forthright for some people, we're dealing with a group of people that has one of the biggest inferiority complexes I've ever seen. And it's not being put on them by anyone else. That's the trick of it. I'm reminded of a story about India and elephants. Are you comparing black people to elephants? No, I'm just I'm using this as an example. When elephants are young, they tie a rope around their leg and they put a stake in the ground. And the elephant tries and tries and tries and can't get away and tries and tries. And then it gives up. The elephant very quickly grows past the ability to be, reined in by that post. Grows huge. But every time they put the thing, put the ring and then put the thing in the ground, it's like, oh, okay, I'm stuck. I can't go anywhere. Not realizing that you've grown. You are bigger now than you were before. You could easily overcome that. But the walls that you put up are in your mind. And it's my hope that by being honest and forthright, maybe even critically so, with the black community, that they'll get out of this phase of everything's holding me back. The white man's holding me back. This language is holding me back. Sydney Sweeney is holding me back. And they may actually start focusing on bettering their society for this country. Because they have an isolated society where they don't view themselves as Americans. They don't identify as American, and they have a bitter hatred and resentment towards white people. If that is not dealt with and solved, I fear for what comes next. And I want every American to live a better life. I want every American to know prosperity and to be proud of their home country. That's what I'd like. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go watch the rest of the video, I definitely recommend it. It's on Tyrone Magnus's channel. I think his perspective is interesting. Go send him some love. This video is just a little bit of a critique and an analysis of his sort of perspective. I find it very interesting. I think Tyrone's just great, even though we have disagreements here and there. So go send him some love. And on that note, I will bid you a good day, and I'll see you next time.